it's a pleasure to finally catch up with you. I know that we've been emailing for some time now, and I think, you've got a fascinating story. You've just explained to me that, you grew up in Texas, moved to Florida, and then for the last 20 plus years, you've been in LA. So I guess there's a lot of people that come to LA, think it's paved with gold, they want to follow their dreams. What was the thing that brought you there, and have you followed your dreams, and have you made that happen?
Well, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. And I think that it's important to remember that if you want to achieve anything significant in life, you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to sort of burn the boats. You're going to have to throw caution to the wind to a certain extent. And anything that's worth achieving is going to require effort, work, risk. So all of that entails my story of coming to Los Angeles and achieving or trying to live my dream. And the way that my story started really was through bodybuilding and sports. And sports really taught me a lot about teamwork, commitment, effort, achievement, and training. And so through sports and through bodybuilding, I was naturally intrigued by the human body, and I wanted to follow that as a passion. Me being from South Asian background, we don't have that, in our lineage. We have doctors, engineers, and lawyers. That's about it, and tech support people. So, unfortunately, that was the kind of the path everybody wanted me to go on. However, I said, listen, I'm going to follow my dreams, and the bodybuilding bug bit me, and I started helping a lot of people transform their bodies. I was actually an accounting major, believe it or not, to start off in college. Then I switched to biochemistry and nutrition because, again, I wanted to follow my passion. I knew that if I didn't do what I loved and absolutely lived my dream, then I would be miserable, and I wouldn't. I would live a life that I would remember and be proud of. So I followed my dream. I had an opportunity to work at a startup company in LA called Body Logics. I was in Florida at the time, and what's crazy is I had a newborn baby, a 6 weeks old baby. Great job in Florida for the Rexall Sundown. Back in the day, we helped buy Medtrex, and I was doing product development. And again, a very stable, good job. And I had this kind of risk, an opportunity to go to LA, and nobody said go. Every single person said, don't do it. Do not do it. And I literally burned the boats, and I said to myself, you're only going to regret the things you didn't do. So I just did it, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Wow. So you really kind of jumped in with 2 feet and just made it happen, I guess. So what was you're going back to the bodybuilding. Was there, for me personally, when I was growing up, it was like the Rocky movies that inspired me to sort of get into fitness and so on. Was there anybody, that inspired you, that was kind of motivating you to follow this kind of fitness career that you've now built for yourself?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think that there was 2 people that always inspired me, like they did millions of people around the world, Stallone and Arnold. Those are the 2 kind of people I grew up on. I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding when I was a kid, and that kind of taught me all the wrong ways to lift weights. But hey, it was Arnold, so I just followed his, 25 sets of one body part and overtrain and train in the gym for 2 hours, which I learned later that, it's better to be efficient. And again, through learning about your body, genetic testing, blood testing, to be more specific. But back then, hey, we had a dream, and we didn't have social media or the internet for that matter. So I read this Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. Of course, I followed Arnold through his bodybuilding career, and it kind of motivated me to get into bodybuilding. And then, of course, Stallone, watching Rocky, like you said, you watched Rocky, and every kid watched Rocky. I used to run around the house and do push-ups and play the Rocky music, and Eye of the Tiger, blaring, and drinking raw eggs, which was very bad for you. I found out later, but hey, I was that was it. So Stallone and Arnold were the 2 people that inspired me. And what's so incredible, and talk about make it happen, Stallone was my first client in LA. So that's a crazy story we can get into.
Oh, but I think that has got to be one that's got to be shared. I mean, I think there's nobody around the world that doesn't know who Stallone is, and the fact that you've crossed paths with him, that he motivated you, and at a later stage you crossed paths professionally. I think that's a story we'd love to hear.
It is one of the most remarkable stories, and everybody kind of asks me, "Hey, what's your true Hollywood story? Like, how did you work your way up, and did you grind, and did you have some clients, and then you built up to some A-listers?" I'm actually, fortunately enough, completely opposite. My first client was Sly Stallone. So here's the story. I burned the boats, and I moved to Los Angeles, started a startup company, did well. We sold it, and I was becoming an expert, so to speak, in supplements. I was writing books. I was writing for all the magazines at that time, and kind of became sort of known as the national expert on nutrition and supplements, and even some training. So Sly maybe saw some of my articles in Muscle and Fitness and other magazines, and so we actually had a mutual friend who connected us. And so one day, I'm sitting at home in LA, and the phone rings. Back in the day, those Nextel phones, the flip phones we used to have,
Yeah.
and so the phone rings, and I hear this voice, "Hey, Rehan, it's Sly Stallone calling. I got your number." And I look at the phone, and I thought it was a practical joke. Like, honestly, I was like, there's no way. I mean, I grew up on Rocky. I mean, come on. Like, Stallone is calling me, like my
Yeah.
guy that I literally my idol growing up as a motivator, is calling me on the cell phone. I was like, no. So I actually hung up. I hung up on Stallone. That's my claim to fame. I actually hung up on the guy. He calls back. He's like, "Hey, bro, I think we got disconnected." And I said, "Wait, this sounds just like him. Like, this can't be a practical joke." So I was just like, wait a minute, this is fine. So he's basically telling me that he's starting a supplement company called InStone. And he got my number through a mutual friend. He said, "You're the premier expert in this area. I want you to be my business partner. Come on in, help me develop products, marketing, everything involved in building a supplement company as you've done it before." And I was like, "Let me think about it." No, yes, done. like, like that
I
was it.
mean,
Like, there's nothing to think about. I mean, it's like, yes. So I basically told him yes right away. And I met up with him at his house. And what a surreal life of making it happen that this is, I'm growing up with Rocky doing push-ups around the house. And next thing you know, I'm sitting at his house
yeah.
talking to Stallone about partnering up. And then after that, I started working with him personally on his nutrition and supplements and training on Rocky. He put me in the Rocky movie. The Rambo we worked on together. So can you imagine a kid who grew up in Texas, who ran around the house doing push-ups, watching Rocky, idolizing this guy? Now I'm getting him ready for a Rocky and Rambo movie.
That is really, I mean, serendipity. I mean, I've got a couple of stories like that myself, but that is definitely the most coolest one I've heard to date. I absolutely love that. And so obviously this happened. I actually vaguely remember that line launching, and I think it did pretty well for a few years. What happened? Was it
It
just
did. It did. Actually, we sold it after a couple of years. It did pretty well, but Stallone, I think, expected it to be like a movie premiere where you make a ton of money the first weekend, and as we know in supplements, it takes years and years and years. So I think he wanted to kind of just get out, and he did what he wanted to do, and I think he achieved some of the financial goals, and he was like, "Look, this is it for me. I don't think I can go in for the long haul, on this." So that's the reason it kind of ended. But it was a great run. It was a great experience. And like I said, I got to, and I started working with him personally after that for years. And what was really cool is he actually opened up all of Hollywood for me. He was literally the most generous person I think I've ever met, because he like opened every door. He introduced me to like dozens of A-list clients. I'm talking about Bruce Willis, Hugh Jackman, Ben Affleck, everybody. And when it comes from Stallone, I was in the door. So like my true Hollywood story started from the top. Like literally started with Stallone and just went up from there. So I was fortunate enough to not really have to really work my way up in that regard. Of course, I had to work hard, and of course, I had to at the most important thing, as you know, Daniel, you do it in your business is deliver results. Results is
Absolutely.
the name of the game. I mean, if you don't deliver results, you're not going to go anywhere. So my goal was always to be an asset, to always deliver results, and to make it happen.
Yeah. So obviously you had an amazing success. What I think is interesting though is that we all love our successes, and sometimes, in fact, we actually forget a lot of them, but we always remember the failures. What I mean, without trying to be on a negative here, but what I think is really important story is to understand that all of us, whether it be in business, sport, life, we all have setbacks and failures. Is there something that that happened either recently or historically that you that at the time seemed like your world was collapsing, but after that you actually came back stronger and it gave you the motivation to kind of carry on or to do things differently?
Absolutely. I see. I think it's a lot of it is the way you look at things. Perception is reality. And I think your mindset has a lot to do with it. So I always say, I don't fail. I win or I learn. And that's the way I really look at failures is, I'm not afraid of it. I don't have the fear of failure. And I think that's what creates success. And like Michael Jordan once said, which is a great quote I really like, is that I never lost a game. I just ran out of time. That I think it's one of the best quotes ever. It's like, hey, I don't lose. I just happen to run out of time. But I think that I think that if you have a mentality of winning, if you have a winner's mindset, even if you lose, even if you fail, you will see it as a learning experience. And I've definitely learned a lot more from failure than success. And I'll give you many, many examples of failures that I've had to overcome. Uh, for example, one was I'll just start off early bodybuilding, right? In the bodybuilding days, everybody looked at me. They said, "Look, you have no genetics. You're a skinny kid. There's no way you could be a bodybuilder, right?" And so I did my first competition, and I got third place. I thought I was going to win because I thought I was, the best. And that was a humbling experience. As I lost that competition, I said, no, you know what? I'm going to come back. And after that loss, I never lost a competition again. And
Wow.
so again, it was that learning. It was that, and also it was what you just said. It was a motivational factor. Like, hey, I don't want that feeling of losing ever again.
Mm.
And so I've definitely experienced that. In business, I've experienced that several times. We've had several startup companies who they didn't go where we wanted them to go. But at the same time, I made amazing contacts. I always look at the bright side. I always look at the sunshine in every situation. And even those businesses that sort of failed, I actually made amazing connections. I learned what not to do next time, and I got better. So look, anybody out there listening who's maybe going through a hard time, maybe going through some failure is only as bad as you make it. And if you can have the right mindset, you can learn from that failure. And I'm living proof that you can take failure and make it into a huge success.
So at the moment, obviously, I guess you're currently best known for training a lot of A-list athletes and also Hollywood actors. Is there anybody, past or present, that you would love to have had the opportunity to train with that maybe it just won't happen now for whatever reason, whether or not they've moved on or passed away or something? It's just like an interest. Like we often ask our team members, if you could train with anybody, anytime, anywhere, who would it be?
I would say The Rock. I think that's one person that I've never trained with. I've met him several times, but I've never trained with him. I think that would be someone that I would definitely would love to work with. And the reason why is he's one of the few people that's actually uses weight training as sort of his anchor. He says, right? It's his thing that he does regularly, consistently, and he's the hardest worker in the room. And so to work with someone who's so dedicated to fitness, who takes it so seriously, I love that. And I love people who take their fitness to the next level, who will do what it takes to maximize their body and health. So I would say The Rock is one person. Uh, and most other people I've actually worked with, I've literally worked with hundreds of A-listers. So I've pretty much crossed paths with most people. There's only one person I actually turned down from working with, and that was Tom Cruise for Mission Impossible. Long story, we won't get into it here, but there was a specific reason. But I didn't end up working with Tom Cruise, but so maybe that might have been something that was cool. But other than The Rock, I think that would be it. I don't have any other regrets than that. And I think that I've been fortunate enough to work with some great people, and I love sharing the experiences of that.
So what do you think? Do you think there's something from the clients that you've met over the years that differentiates them and has been the result of their success? Or do you think it is literally hard work and mindset? Or do you think that there's a lot of people that are just innately kind of talented?
I think that it's a combination of everything. Obviously, there's never one thing. I don't like when some people say, "Hey, it's just this," or "It's just that." It's really luck, timing, all of that. Even that has something to do with it. I mean, obviously, I think preparation and opportunity is what luck is, but at the same time, you do need some good timing. You need momentum. You need mindset, which you mentioned, hard work. All those things are at play. But what's really interesting is at one point, I asked some of my top A-list clients, and I was actually working with 3 of the top 10 richest people in the world. And so I asked all of them the same question, what you just
Okay.
asked me. I literally asked all of them. I said, I'm going to do a little experiment. And I have a regularly scheduled weekly radio program here in Los Angeles. And so I've had a lot of them come on my show and do interviews. And so one of the questions I asked all of them is, hey, if you were to pick one trait that you have that creates so much success for you, right? Of course, there's a lot. You can pick, many traits. But if you would just, if there's a gun to your head and you had to pick one trait that you have that makes you successful, what would it be? And so I asked maybe, about 20 people, 20 of my clients at that time, and the same question. And there was one answer that actually most of them said, and it was the same answer. And it stood out to me, and it was amazing that they all said basically the same thing, and it was one word. And that word that allowed them to achieve that level of success was hunger. They
Yeah.
all had hunger. They all had a desire to achieve, no matter what they were billionaires. I mean, these are top level people, A-listers. They had everything in the world, but they woke up every morning still hungry for success. And that is what separated them and made them, greater than other people. There was a American football player called Walter Payton, and they asked him the same question. They said, "Listen, you're not the biggest, you're not the fastest, you're not the strongest. What makes you like a Hall of Fame, a super great running back, such a great football player?" And he said, "I want it more than anyone else." And again, going back to that hunger. So that was a trait that I've seen in all of the successful people, is to have more hunger than anybody else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, funny enough, there's people I know who kind of in that category, and you think that they take the foot off the gas, but actually, I think the more success they have, the faster, the more they're looking for. I think that they never get tired of that kind of pursuit of excellence.
I agree. I think listen. We have a phrase here. We got to keep our foot on their necks. We gotta keep pushing pedal to the metal, because. And actually, what's interesting, Daniel, is in this world, we're also living in a different time. And in this time, there's so many distractions, and the world is moving so fast that if you don't promote, and if you're not hungry, and if you don't do the things on a day-to-day basis, no matter how big you are, life can pass you by, right? I mean, that's because we're in such a attention economy that there's so many new things now with AI and other things, that if you're not relevant, and if you're not hungry, and if you're not continuing to push, then you might get passed by.
So on that note, I mean, what I've seen in the fitness industry is this kind of development of pseudo experts, which I find kind of both worrying and potentially a bit dangerous. Do you feel that we're at a tipping point whereby people will start looking, rather than at what the image of the person that they're being shown, and more at what's behind the image? Or do you think that that kind of ship has sailed now, and unfortunately you can't put it back in the box?
Well, I think that is a very big concern, and someone like yourself who has real expertise, who's been in the industry, for 100 years, like me, we've been here
110,
back
if you
in
don't
the
mind.
we started off in the Paleolithic era. We were
Yeah.
lifting dinosaurs, but my point to that is that any like there's real expertise in this field. So there are people out there who have true expertise, who've been doing it for a long time consistently, but there's also a lot of people who have no expertise. And the problem is there's such a low barrier to entry. It's not like being a doctor or, you have to go to medical school, or there's some barrier to entry to make that claim that you're a doctor, right? To be a fitness expert, so to speak, could just mean you have abs and a good Instagram. I mean, that's what the world we're living in. And that's very dangerous, in my opinion, because number one is if you can't trust someone who doesn't have the education, the background, the experience, expertise to mess with your body. Like, these people are recommending supplements and interact. You got to remember, there's drug supplement interactions, there's supplement interactions. There's so many things that can go wrong with your body because you're messing with the human body, with ingestibles, with training, with all these things that affect your health. So I think it's very dangerous, actually, and I think there's so much nonsense that I see continuously on the internet, and unfortunately, internet fame creates credibility for these people,
Yeah.
even though there's no expertise, as you can imagine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I find it quite right. I mean, I've got, as I guess you have, children, and you wonder who are they going to be looking to for their influence and who are
Yes.
inspiring them, and you wonder how credible they are. I mean, having said that, we've been watching the Olympics, and I've been blown away by what the human body can achieve. So kind of on that note, is there anything, like, from a training perspective, after all your years of experience, both as a person, training yourself personally and also training clients, what do you think do you think personal training needs to be more personalized, or do you think, because I guess what happened a little bit in the 80s, 90s, and even the early thousands was that there was like these cookie cutter kind of training plans that everybody followed. Do you think that we're moving to an area or an era of where it's going to become more personalized? And have you found that that is required in order to get the best results from your clients?
I absolutely believe that personalization is the key to fitness success. I don't think that you can basically achieve maximum results without extreme customization, without a program that is customized specifically to the person. I was actually talking about DNA and genetics back in the 90s, where people thought I was absolutely crazy to even think about genetics and how they even mattered to humans for sports and for athletics. But I was talking about that back then. I actually wrote an article in the late 90s about the importance of genetics and using genes, understanding your genetic potential with sports and exercise and performance. So I have always, from day one in my career, believed in customization, in personalization, and creating a blueprint of the body. And that's why people always ask me, hey, how do you achieve such great results for these superhero movies and Batman and Justice League and all these Rocky and Rambo and all these kind of superheroes, Wolverine, all these people you kind of help create? Why do you have the best success in the shortest period of time? And I always say it's customization. I don't guess, I test, and I find out. Like you, as you're an expert in, we have DNA, epigenetic testing, we have blood testing, we have saliva, we have food allergies, we look at body scanning, DEXA, I mean, everything. And when you have customization, that's when you have the greatest results. And that's what I find so dangerous with online programming is there's so many cookie cutter programs. And it's literally, hey, eat this chicken and broccoli and you'll get abs, or take this vitamin, you'll get abs. And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. What works for you may not work for somebody else. I'll give you a quick example of that in my clients. One example is there was a superhero that was getting ready for a movie, and they were kind of like at a standstill, at a plateau. And we were like, hey, why are they not peaking, and what's the plateau? So we did a simple food allergy test, and we found out that person was allergic to almonds, and he was eating almonds every day because it wasn't really affecting him per se. He didn't break out or anything, but internally he was getting inflamed, and there was a chemical in almonds called amygdalin that he was specifically allergic to. So all we did was, because of the test, we eliminated almonds. He dropped 5 pounds in 2 weeks, and
Wow.
that's how it goes. And yeah, it's simple as that. So again, I highly, and I can't stress this enough, and I've preached this for so long, that you should get tested. Get a DNA test. Get an epigenetics test. get blood work done regularly. Because if you don't have knowledge of what's happening in your body, then how are you going to achieve maximum results? When you have the light in your engine, the check engine light on, do you just guess and say, oh, it's probably oil? No, you go to a mechanic. They do a full diagnostic on your car. They
Yeah.
find out, oh, you know what? It's this spark plug or it's this. And I love how people treat their cars with such specificity and personalization, and they forget to treat their own human body with personalization and customization. And so I think it's, to answer your question, the final thing I'll say about it is, if you don't follow a customized or personalized program, you're really doing your body a disservice in achieving maximum results. And you won't maximize even your training. Imagine working that hard in the gym every day and working 50%, not
Yeah.
really maximizing your potential just because you have no knowledge of what's going on biochemically internally. So I highly recommend everyone out there get tested, understand your body, and then you'll just have such great results after that.
So I guess, we're talking a lot about fitness here. What would be your kind of mantra? I don't know if it's a thing that you live by or not, but, for somebody, not necessarily even in fitness, but somebody who's looking to start a fresh day today, what would be your kind of advice to kind of say, in order for them to achieve their goals, whether it be, fitness, life, business, with all the experience that you've had and all the people that you've worked with, is there kind of three things, or it could be four or five, that you would say that an individual needs to kind of focus on to achieve whatever their dream is?
I think that's another really good question. I think there's definitely many things that are needed and sort of the recipe, but there's a few things that stand out, a few things that generally most people who have success start off with these things. One is, I think, a positive outlook on life, a general, just positive nature and positive outlook. Colin Powell said that perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. So having positivity, having a positive mindset, believing in your mind that you can achieve something, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe in you. So I
Yeah.
think belief in yourself with anything you do, that's number one. And the ways you can do that to build confidence is by progress, by achievement, by taking action, by making it happen, right? And that's a great mantra. I love how you say make it happen, because that actually is what creates happiness for people: progress, achievement, doing things. And so I think taking action is another big one: positive outlook, and then taking massive action. People say that it's not, people always complain, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have all these excuses, but it's not lack of resources, it's lack of resourcefulness that
Mm.
creates failure. So I think it's important that people be resourceful and take massive action. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail harder, right? Fall, and I always say, fall forward. Don't fall backwards. Fall forward, right? So you fall, you learn. Okay, you learn. Now you get up and you don't fall. You don't fall as much. You stand up more. And so I think taking action is very important. Number three, I think you have to have a good environment around you, right? Your group, your tribe, the people around you, the five people you spend the most time with are very important, because that's going to be who you are.
Mm.
And you should have people around you that are achieving something, that are positive, that are supportive, that are going to allow you to live your dream and support your dream. And so that's very important. And a lot of times people don't have that. They have a spouse, or they have a significant other, or they have a family member who kind of always brings them down. And
Mm.
that's extremely detrimental for success. And it's very hard to achieve success when you have that in your day-to-day life. So surround yourself with good people. And then also would say number four, gain knowledge, learn more, learn. If you want to get to where you want to go, ask people who are there, or ask people who've been there, right? I mean, if you're gonna go on a journey, don't seek advice from someone who's never left home, right? Find people who are. That's it. That's it. People try to get advice from people who aren't doing it. And that's why it's so dangerous to see these online coaches for life, for health, everything, because they're not really practicing what they preach. And
Yeah.
I always say you can't trust a skinny chef, I mean, you gotta have, your chef's gotta be a little overweight. I mean, I'm sorry, you gotta be a little bit,
Yeah.
you gotta have good food, right? So I think it's important to seek advice from people who are achieving what you want to do, and gain knowledge, learn. You don't have to do everything yourself. Get mentors, get people to help you, and you'll be surprised how many people out there are willing to help. I get people that ask me to be their mentor all the time, and I'm more than happy to help and share knowledge, because we always say pay it forward, because that karma, that knowledge, whatever you put in the world, if you put good in the world, you get good back to you. So I love supporting people who are trying to achieve their dreams. And then last thing that I'll add is, from a fitness point of view, is what we talked about, is customization. Is just learn about your body, learn what works for you, and follow what works for you, and don't listen to the noise. Because what's the first question, Daniel, that people ask when someone loses weight? Oh my God, what are you doing? Oh, fasting? I'm gonna do that. It's like, hey, you have no idea what their life is like or what they've been through, and just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. So again, customization, and I think if you combine all those things, you can certainly get a leg up, and you can certainly move forward. And then I will add one more bonus tip, which is adapt. They say adapt or die. We're moving in fast times, and you got to really go up with the times. I'll give you a quick story on that. I had a lawyer back in the late 90s and early 2000s who was kind of old school. Good lawyer, really good lawyer, but kind of old school. And so he used to fax back in the day. Fax, people don't even know what fax is, but they used to fax machine these things, right? These papers. So he used to fax everything. And then email came around. And he just said, no, I refuse to do email. I don't understand it. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. And guess what happened to his business a year after that? It closed up because he refused to adapt. So, I think it's important to adapt with the times. I don't want to TikTok all day, or do these reels, but you know what? That's how you spread knowledge. That's how you market. And that's what the way of the world is today. So adapt to the time you're living in, and be able to relate to people. And again, I know I keep saying that's the end, but there's one more thing I'll add, and that is always be an asset. Don't be a liability, be an asset to people. If you're an asset to people, if you help people, you will always win in the end.
That is great advice, and I'm pretty sure that anybody who's achieved what you have would probably share very similar insights. So, looking forward, what kind of projects are on the horizon for you? And more books. You said you've got your own radio program. Obviously, you've got a string of A-list clients that you've worked with. Anything coming up that you can share, like as an exclusive, or is it best to kind of stay tuned and follow you on social media to find out what's happening next in your life?
Well, always good things are happening. And I think that for me, a lot of my business has transformed into entertainment. So I've been focusing a lot on making movies and TV series, and kind of having that infotainment part of my business. So we're actually working on some new feature films. One, we talked about the Olympics, is about the doping scandal that occurred 20 years ago with Marion Jones, and baseball, and the track and field athletes, and all those type of things. We're actually making a movie about it. I got the rights to the story, so we're making a good movie about that, and really asking the question: is it cheating if everybody's doing it? That kind of vibe. So, and just talking about sports, and the pressure to win, and so we're making a little movie about that. We're working on a few TV series. I've kind of, again, wanted to get into entertainment a little bit, since I'm around these people, and they're really pushing me for that. So we're gonna make some shows, and of course, I've got my new CBS radio show coming up. New books are in the works, as well as always. There's always new products I'm working on, again, to help achieve better health and wellness for people out there. So anything I can do to support, physical fitness, health, wellness, infotainment, and make people smarter, hey, I'm all for that.
So just going back 1 second, what's your thoughts on Peter Thiel's idea of creating an Olympics for people that are taking steroids and other performance enhancing drugs? Do you think that is going to gain a lot of following and momentum, or do you think it's like the end of the era, and is this a disaster waiting to happen?
Well, let me break. I got some breaking news for you. That Olympics is already happening. It's called the Olympics. Uh, I mean, there's. I would say. I mean, if you talk to anybody who's in sports or in athletics, they will tell you that there's a high percentage of all athletes that are doing some type of substance. Uh, that's just what it is, unfortunately. So to say that to have an Olympics where it's unlimited drug use, I think it could be dangerous. I think as long as it's under doctor supervision, I think it's amazing because I do want to kind of see what the human body can really do and what the real limits are with everything. But again, safety is always the issue. So I think to see an Olympics without any testing or any limits, as long as it's under doctor supervision and as long as there's not the safety risks, I would love to see that actually as a sports fan. And I think this is a very complex topic. I think, and I've been in this topic for many, many years, especially working on this movie. I've spoke to a lot of the experts in the field, a lot of coaches, a lot of things off the record that I've heard. And, a lot of it is just your eyes don't lie. Like, for example, when you see an athlete that's 230 pounds of pure muscle with 5% body fat that can run, under a 10-second 100-meter, you got to kind of wonder, that, hey, is the human body naturally built to do this? Or when you see, for example, some of these bodybuilders, when you see some of these shot putters or some of these people who are over 300 pounds that have athletic skills, you got to kind of wonder. Now, again, is everybody doing it? No. But at the same time, I do think that it is a big problem. And I think that there has to be new measures put into place, better testing methods, because, the drug people are always kind of one step ahead. So as long as there's winning and money involved and all those type of things, there'll always be doping. It's just for us a better way to try to stop it.
Brilliant. Look, thank you so much for your time. Any kind of final thoughts on the audience before we go?
I would say that never stop believing, never stop dreaming, and never stop achieving. I'm living proof that you can do anything you set your mind to against all odds. And no matter what anybody says to you, go live your dream. At least try it so you don't have any regrets later in life. And I really, really believe that anything is truly possible.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rehan. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And hopefully we'll get you back on again and you can tell us how all the various projects have gone.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it.